So, the only sound in the room was the crinkle of paper as my fiancé's mom, Brenda, unfolded the document that would decide my future. My ex-mother-in-law, Karen, was practically vibrating with a smug, self-righteous energy from across the living room couch. She looked like a cat that was about to get a whole gallon of cream. "Well, read it," Karen snapped, her voice sharp. "Read the part where it proves my Mark is the father of my grandbaby and that this little gold digger," she said, pointing a bony finger at me, "has been lying to your son this whole time." Brenda shot her a withering glare before her eyes scanned the page. I held my breath. I knew what it would say, but the anticipation was still killing me. Liam, my fiancé, squeezed my hand so tight I thought my knuckles would pop. Brenda's shoulders sagged in relief. "It says there is a 9,999% probability that Liam is the father." The silence that followed was beautiful. It was a thick, heavy, glorious silence. Karen's jaw, which had been flapping nonstop for the last 6 months, finally snapped shut. Her son, my ex-Mark, just kind of deflated next to her, looking like a sad, confused balloon. I let the moment hang in the air for a good 10 seconds before I cleared my throat. "Actually, Brenda," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "There's a second page. I ran another test. You should probably read that one out loud, too." Brenda looked at me, confused, then flipped the page. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened and closed a few times. She looked from the paper to Mark, then to Karen, then back to the paper. The color drained from her face. "What is it?" Liam asked, leaning forward. Brenda looked up, her gaze locking onto Karen with a mixture of pity and disgust. "This is a maternal DNA test," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Between Karen and Mark." She took a shaky breath. "It says there is a 0% chance that Karen is Mark's biological mother." Yeah, that's the moment my life stopped being a soap opera and turned into a full-blown psychological thriller. And if you want to know how I ended up detonating a 30-year-old secret in the middle of a custody dispute I wasn't even having, we need to go back to the beginning. It all started, as these things often do, with a breakup. Mark and I had been together for 4 years. It was one of those relationships that was comfortable, but not passionate. We were on different paths. I was finishing my degree and planning a career. He was working at the same hardware store he'd been at since high school and seemed perfectly happy with his mom, Karen, still doing his laundry. The breakup was mutual and, I thought, amicable. No drama. We just fizzled out. About 2 months later, I met Liam. It was instant. Like, movie level, everything makes sense kind of instant. He was smart, driven, funny, and he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. We fell hard and fast. 6 months in, we were living together. A year in, we were engaged. And a few months after that, I saw those 2 little pink lines on a pregnancy test. We were ecstatic. Over the moon. I didn't keep in touch with Mark, but we had mutual friends, so I knew he heard I was pregnant. I didn't think anything of it. Our lives were separate now. Or so I thought. That was my first mistake. My second mistake was underestimating his mother. Karen had always been a lot. When Mark and I were dating, she was the classic clingy, overbearing mom. She'd pop over unannounced. She'd rearrange my kitchen cabinets because they weren't logical. She once told me my lasagna was a good effort for a girl who didn't grow up in a real Italian family, despite the fact she was from Ohio and her maiden name was Smith. She saw me not as her son's partner, but as her rival. When we broke up, I was mostly just relieved I wouldn't have to deal with her anymore. The first sign of trouble came the day after I announced my pregnancy on social media. I posted a cute picture of a sonogram and a pair of tiny sneakers, tagging Liam, with the caption, "Our greatest adventure begins." The comments were full of love and congratulations from our friends and family. And then, there it was. A comment from Karen. "I can't wait to meet my beautiful grandbaby. Nana will spoil you rotten." I just stared at it. My grandbaby? Nana? I hadn't spoken to this woman in over a year. I deleted the comment and blocked her. Problem solved, right? Wrong. So wrong. A week later, I get a message from a cousin. "Hey, congrats again. Just saw your announcement on Karen's page." I clicked the link, and my blood ran cold. She had screenshotted my announcement and reposted it on her own timeline. Her caption? Some of you have been asking, and yes, the rumors are true. My boy Mark is going to be a daddy. I'm finally getting the grandchild I deserve. Feeling so blessed. The post had hundreds of likes and comments from her friends and distant relatives, all congratulating her and Mark. I felt sick. I immediately called Mark. He was, as usual, completely useless. "Oh, yeah, Mom's just excited," he mumbled. "You know how she is. Mark, she is telling everyone that you are the father of my child. You know that's not true. We broke up months before I even met Liam. You need to tell her to take that down right now." "I mean, are you sure?" he asked, and that was the moment I knew this was going to be a war. "Am I sure?" I screeched into the phone. "Yes, Mark, I am 100% sure that the baby I conceived with my fiancé is, in fact, his. Tell your mother to take the post down, or my lawyer will be in touch." The post came down, but the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted in Karen's twisted little world, and she was going to water it until it became a jungle. The next few months were a low-grade warfare of harassment. She would create new social media accounts to comment on my pictures. "That's my grandbaby's little nose," on a 3D ultrasound pic. She started messaging my friends, asking for details about my pregnancy. She even found my baby registry and sent me a hideous, scratchy-looking blanket with Grandma's angel embroidered on it. I sent it back. Liam was incredible through all of it. He was furious on my behalf, a constant wall of support. His own mother, Brenda, was a saint. She was everything Karen wasn't: respectful, kind, and understanding of boundaries. She was just as excited about her first grandchild, but she showed it by asking what we needed, not by making demands. The day our daughter, Lily, was born was the happiest day of my life. She was perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and a little tuft of dark hair, just like Liam's. We spent 2 blissful days in the hospital, just the 3 of us in our little bubble. The moment we brought her home, the bubble burst. We weren't home for more than an hour when the doorbell rang. It was Karen. She was standing on our doorstep holding a giant pink teddy bear, a wild look in her eyes. "I'm here to see my granddaughter," she announced, trying to push past Liam into our house. "Karen, you are not welcome here," Liam said, his voice like steel, blocking her path. "I don't know what fantasy you're living in, but you need to leave. Now." "You can't keep me from her," she shrieked, her voice rising. "She's a part of me. She's my blood." The confrontation ended with us having to threaten to call the police. She left, but not before screaming from the sidewalk that I was a baby-stealing whore. Welcome to motherhood. The incident was the first major escalation. After that, she went completely off the rails. She started what I can only describe as a public smear campaign. She told anyone who would listen that I was an unstable, vindictive woman who was keeping Mark's child from him out of spite. She claimed I had tricked Liam into thinking the baby was his. It was humiliating. We lived in a relatively small town. Murmurs started following me at the grocery store. People who knew both families would give me these looks, a mix of pity and suspicion. The joy of having a new baby was being completely overshadowed by this dark cloud of her insanity. We moved a few towns over when Lily was 3 months old, hoping to get a fresh start and put some distance between us and the crazy. For a while, it worked. The silence was wonderful. We were settling into our new life, our new routine. Liam's parents, Brenda and Tom, would visit on the weekends. Brenda was the most amazing grandmother. She'd just hold Lily and hum to her for hours. She respected our rules, our space, our decisions. It felt normal. Then came the day at the park. It was a beautiful fall afternoon. I had Lily in the swing, and she was giggling, her little legs kicking with delight. I felt a presence behind me and turned, expecting it to be another mom. It was Karen. My heart fell into my stomach. "How did you find us?" I breathed. "You think you can hide my own flesh and blood from me," she hissed, her face contorted with rage. She lunged for the swing. "Give me my baby." I yanked the swing back, holding Lily tight against my chest. "Get away from us," I yelled. People were starting to stare. "She needs her real family, not some replacement dad," she screamed, pointing a trembling finger at Liam, who had just come back from the car with our diaper bag. He ran over, putting himself between us. The whole thing devolved into a full-blown public spectacle, ending with Karen being escorted away by park security. That was the breaking point. Not just for me, but for Brenda. A few days later, she came over alone. She looked exhausted. She told me that people had been calling her. Friends of hers who were also friends with Karen. The story had mutated. Now, the rumor was that Lily looked exactly like Mark, and that I was terrified of a DNA test because it would expose my trap. "Honey, I know this is nonsense," Brenda said, her eyes full of genuine pain. "I look at Lily, and I see my son. I see my husband. I see our family. But this is getting out of control. Karen is poisoning the well for everyone." She took a deep breath. "Liam's father and I were talking. And we think you should do it." "Do what?" I asked, although I already knew the answer. "A DNA test," she said quietly. "A legal, court-admissible paternity test. Not for us. We don't have any doubts. But for you. For your protection. If you have that, a piece of paper that proves, unequivocally, that Liam is her father, then Karen has no leg to stand on. We can get a restraining order. We can shut her down for good." I felt a tear slide down my cheek. It wasn't anger, it was just exhaustion. And hurt. I knew she was trying to help, but the fact that things had gotten so bad that my wonderful, supportive future mother-in-law felt she had to ask me to prove my child's paternity was crushing. But she was right. It was the only way to end it. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll do it." This is where my plan started to form. If we were going to do this, we were going to do it my way. I was done being the victim. I was done being reactive. It was time to go on the offensive. A thought had been nagging at me, a little seed of an idea planted by something Brenda's husband, Tom, had said in passing months ago. He'd mentioned that he and Karen's late husband, David, had been friends years ago, and that David had been a man with a lot of secrets. It was a long shot, a wild, insane hunch. But Karen's obsession seemed more than just a grandmother's love. It was frantic, desperate, almost unhinged. It felt like she wasn't just trying to claim a grandchild, it felt like she was trying to hold on to her son. I told Liam my plan. He thought I was crazy, but he saw the look in my eyes and knew I needed to see it through. So we did it. I ordered 2 DNA test kits online. One was the legal paternity test between Liam, Lily, and myself. The other was a peace of mind maternal test. Getting the DNA samples was surprisingly easy. The first one, for the paternity test, was a simple cheek swab done at a certified lab. For the second one, I had to get creative. I invited Mark over to my parents' house under the guise of wanting to clear the air for everyone's sake. While he was there, he drank from a water glass. After he left, I carefully packaged it and sent it off with a sample of Karen's DNA that I'd gotten from a hairbrush she'd left at our old apartment years ago. Yes, I'd kept it. Call it a crazy hunch. The 2 weeks we waited for the results were the longest of my life. When they both arrived on the same day, I didn't open them. I put them in a drawer. It was time to set the stage for the final act. I called Karen. I told her that I was willing to discuss the situation and that she and Mark should come over to Liam's parents' house on Tuesday. I told her Brenda would be there to mediate. The bait was set, and she bit down hard, probably thinking this was her moment of victory. And that brings us back to the living room, to the moment where the world stopped spinning. After Brenda announced that Mark was not Karen's biological son, the silence was deafening. Karen just stared at her, her face a mask of disbelief. "That's a lie," she whispered. "It's a trick. A fake test." "It's not," I said, sliding the lab's official document folder across the coffee table. "Chain of custody. Certified results. It's all in there." Mark, for the first time, spoke up. His voice was a choked whisper. "Mom? What is she talking about?" Karen's eyes darted around the room, like a cornered animal. She looked at Mark, and for the first time I saw not rage, but pure, unadulterated panic. He made me," she stammered, looking at the floor. "David, my husband, he said we'd lose everything. His family, their money, they wouldn't have accepted." And then it all came tumbling out. The whole sordid, 30-year-old story. David, her late husband, had been infertile. His wealthy, old money family demanded an heir. So, they'd made a deal. A secret deal with a distant cousin of David's who needed money. He was the biological father. They paid him off, he disappeared, and they raised Mark as their own, swearing to never tell a soul. Karen had lived her entire adult life with this lie, this secret. Her obsession with Lily suddenly made perfect, tragic sense. Mark was never truly hers. She couldn't claim him by blood. But a grandchild from Mark would have been her blood, her validation, her proof that she was a real matriarch. When I broke up with him, she lost her chance. My baby, in her twisted mind, was her last shot at that biological connection she'd been denied. She hadn't been fighting for a grandchild, she'd been fighting for a piece of herself. The aftermath was messy. Mark was completely shattered. He looked at the woman who had raised him like she was a stranger. He got up without a word and walked out of the house. He went no contact with her for a full year. Last I heard, he's in therapy, trying to piece together who he is. I genuinely hope he finds peace. Karen just crumbled. All the fight, the rage, the righteous fury, it just evaporated, leaving behind a frail, broken old woman. Brenda and Tom, despite everything, made sure she was looked after, but her relationship with everyone was permanently fractured. She lost everything she had spent her life fighting for. As for us, we got the restraining order. It wasn't even a fight. We moved on. Liam and I got married a few months later in a small, beautiful ceremony. Brenda, after apologizing to me profusely for ever letting a sliver of doubt creep in, has become the most incredible mother-in-law and grandmother a girl could ask for. Our home is peaceful now, filled only with the sounds of Lily's laughter. Sometimes I think about that day, about the bomb I detonated. I don't feel guilty. I feel free. I didn't just protect my daughter, I reclaimed my life. I fought a monster and won, not by screaming louder, but by finding the one truth she couldn't escape.